who owns the story. If someone is able to capture their story on the blockchain, it proves where it started from. It proves who owns the IP. It proves where it should be licensed from. It proves who should be given credit. And that's what we are missing. And so you have stories being stolen and converted to what they want. Let the people that tell the stories and their voices be heard, so we know that this is where it came from initially. That's one of my biggest challenges. How do I get every single voice, every single story to come on chain?
Hi guys, and welcome to the Founders Corner with Lisk Africa. And with me, I have Ike Orizu of Jamit. Hi, Ike.
Hi,
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, so we are in Jamit Studios.
Yes.
And this is like an amazing innovation, amazing building. It's so great to see. But before we get into Jamit and what Jamit is, let's know a little bit about who Ike is.
All right, Ike, CEO, founder of Jamit. I have been building startups since I was 16 years old. I built West Africa's first music service, helped a lot of upcoming artists then that are now global superstars like Burna Boy, Whiskey, Tiwa, Nice. You can name back to back all the Afrobeat artists. And from there, grew to become more of an adult, made a lot of mistakes with my first startup, and then grew out of that, moved to Silicon Valley. I worked with the biggest companies in the world, from Roku to News Corp. This was during the period when I discovered the future of storytelling and media, and being that I've been in media tech through my whole working career and also as a teenager then with startups, I realized that we were going to get to a new dimension and the new era that we needed to focus on, and so I started building Jamit. So that's just a little about me. 2 degrees, one in audio engineering and the other in computer science.
Interesting.
Thank you.
That's such a short, what's it called? A short
bio
of so many years and such like a very, very interesting life.
Thank you.
Why Jamit though?
The main thing that happened was I was living in San Francisco and I was working with one of the biggest media companies in the world. We just had podcasters coming in and everyone's telling the stories, and podcast was becoming a thing in the US, and gradually the inflection point has come where everyone was moving more away from radio into podcasts, and we saw what was happening. But I got used to podcasts and I started listening to them a lot, but I couldn't find our own stories. And what I meant was I couldn't find stories that reflected my own local people, where I was from.
Right.
And most of my other friends that were Asians or Indians, they just couldn't find things that were really telling stories about them. And there's nothing wrong with everyone telling stories in the West, but it was more like we were just being choked with their own content. And so I started looking into what was happening from emerging markets and from Africa, Latin, like where can we get stories? Because truthfully, Africa and Asia are the richest continents with the most oral tradition.
Yeah.
And there is no how they would tell me like we've told all the stories when I can't even hear any of them digitized yet.
Sure.
And so I grew up with my parents and my grandparents telling me about, stories, fables, folklores, all these stories that will scare you at night but also make you happy. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find them digitized. And I thought to myself, what would it be if we could create the biggest, best podcast network in Africa?
Right.
And so in 2020, we actually launched the podcast network as a side project. I was still working at Roku, and the side hustle grew that over 2-3 years. We worked with the biggest companies and brands like Meet Cute, which is the biggest rom-com podcast network in the US. We helped them bring Nollywood stars into making Nollywood rom-coms. We worked with Focusrite. We worked with Imagine Learning, bringing educative learning with Yoruba origins and traditional stories that would help people now in the West learn about us as Africans and other things in other regions. And so figuring out that our stories are not being told was what really pushed us to start the platform. And then gradually we saw more problems that we could solve, which was more like we had 20 podcasts, but we were paying the price for what people would pay in the US but then someone who is in Africa can pay $20 a month to host their podcast on average. But yeah, that person's probably a very good storyteller. But $20 is pretty much almost the average of some people's salaries sometimes in a month. And so we had to figure out how do we make that cost come down, where if you had to be a pro, you had to buy $900 cameras, $100 mic or $200 mics, headphones, $50. You're looking at least spending over $1,000 just to get set up. And how do we bring it down to something that's affordable for anyone in Latam, someone in Nepal or Nigeria or Korea to be able to say, I want to be able to be a podcaster and do it in a blink of an eye, less than $5, you're good to go. And we discovered the blockchain. And so in 2024, we started moving more towards an infrastructure platform to allow people and empower creators to be able to tell their stories for the most affordable prices that there is out there in the world. And we were able to achieve that. And so come 2025, we're getting ready to launch everything out.
Wow. Yeah. That's very interesting to see the journey so far. So this, I can say confidently that this is like the first of many Jamit studios.
Yes. Oh yeah. we started Studio Campus. Studio Campus is pretty much an area where we allow people to come in and creatives to come in and create and have community. The physical space, the digital era is there, but there is nothing that beats being physical and having connections with real people and collaborating with more people in person and having just that network effect by meeting more people and knowing them in person and knowing just the vibes and coming together and talking about things that you need to change in the industry. And so we decided that we'll build this place out, 7 rooms, 7-room studios with an event space to allow them to be able to create. But yes, we're already working with some people in other countries, East Africa, Dallas, United States. We're moving towards Asia as well to be able to have more of our network of studios everywhere where anyone can go into and collaborate with other creators to create content. So yes, more studio campuses are coming soon.
As someone who's a creator myself, this is interesting because when you start up, like you said, there's a lot of cameras, gear, mics, things you have to get, and then it's not just getting them, it's also knowing how to use them, set them up. The barrier of entry is so high, especially like when you're starting, and I think this is a great place. But there's something you said about at first it was not necessarily blockchain. How was your journey coming from like Web 2 and realizing that blockchain could solve a problem for you?
At first, we had no problem initially when we started because, again, I was in the Valley. I was able to afford to buy equipment myself and invest in creators at the time, figure out how to get them to use them. I would train them for like 12 weeks and get them to go from 0 to 1 to become a full-time podcaster. In fact, our first set of originals, out of the 20 of them, I think 12 of them they had never podcasted before. But out of that, 50% of them ended up becoming award-winning podcasters and ended up even getting to make money, globally. And some of them got their content license globally. And these are people who had never touched podcasting before. And so the hand-holding was good for us to be able to do at that time. But what we had to realize was that I could not do that for 1 million people. And so how do I do that for 1 million people? I started looking more into the world of AI, and then how do we get AI to fix that part for us? We got that done. We were able to take down the production time a lot for us to deal with that. But the other bit was now monetization and then storage fees that we're paying for and hosting fees for each podcast. And so each podcast was growing, almost $50. It was costing us at least on average almost $200 per podcast. And dealing with paying the creators then and then paying for them to come get produced. We're in a country where you have to pay for even electricity and all the things needed. You're going through a lot of expenses, but it's so minimal being made back. And so we had to figure out, okay, even without the advertisers, what can we do to decrease this money first and our expenditure, and then take it down to a point where we make money and then break even and become profitable. And that was when blockchain, I was already in Web3, I was already a meme coin trader, I was already buying tokens, I was in almost every ICO then back then. And so ICO was just popping everywhere, and I'm putting $10, $100 here and there. But Polygon came in at that time, they did a hackathon. I'm also a programmer. I wanted to learn more about Web3, tried it out, and because I was working on Jamit, I'm like, let me just see what it will look like to build a podcast hosting platform on the blockchain. Mm-hmm. And so I sat down, it took us 3 days, pretty much worked on some architecture, put everything together, wrote a smart contract. By the time I knew it, I was able to put 1, 2, 3 of our podcasts on the blockchain. And what would cost me like $25 almost every month to host, I was not doing it for less than cents, to make that happen, for that same metadata to be hosted, and I don't have to worry about my data ever being lost ever again. Right. And so we had just migrated from a previous podcast hosting platform to another, and I remember I was losing all our analytics and all our data just because we had to move to a new one and start all over again. But that doesn't happen with the blockchain. And so that was more of the euphoria moment, where you're like aha moments that hits us, and we're like, what have we been doing? We just cracked the code here on what we can do to, one, decentralize stories and make sure that they are permanent. Then there's provenance, where do you get to know that who was the first person to put that IP out there. You can monetize, because every smart contract can now receive USDC or even other ERC20 tokens or cryptocurrencies that people use on regular today. And so it was just so many solutions we found out immediately just by that hackathon. We ended up winning in that hackathon out of all the fintech platforms. So it was more of a validation that this was a no-brainer, that it was going to work. And at that moment, the moment we won, I just went back to the team and I'm like, we're converting from a podcast network to a tech company. And everyone's like, what? I'm like, we're going to be a Web3 company in 2024. And that was how we started building everything again from ground up to move all our podcasts on chain. Wow. Yeah.
Like that's like the one word that came to mind. It's just wow.
Yes, that was what happened.
I think that's very important, where I think we're having a conversation earlier on about how we don't really see a lot of in real life products, especially on this end, on like using the blockchain or utilizing the blockchain.
True.
And where you were saying something about the metadata and the hosting being cheaper, I kid you not, I don't think I would have ever considered that being a solution that the blockchain could give.
Yes.
Right? Like it's never crossed my mind that, hosting podcasts is very expensive in Web2 and could be cheaper using the blockchain.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
Never crossed my mind.
It's so much more cheaper, and you get so much more data.
Right.
Because now you even know who is being involved, engaged with your podcast, meaning like who's collecting your episodes, who's listening to your episodes. We have what we call proof of listening, and those are attestations that are sent, verifiable events that are actually emitted to the blockchain to let people know that, hey, your episode has been listened to by this wallet address. Okay. So if you have a listener and it's like, oh, I'm your favorite listener, and you could literally just ask them for their wallet address and see if they've listened to all your episodes before. But you can't do that with you can't do that with Web2 platform, because even the creators don't have access to that kind of data. And so we realized how much more there was to even just not only being cheaper, but how much data was there, how much more you can make, and how much engagement and connections now you can have with your actual fans and listeners of your content as well.
Okay, let's come back to like the building part, like the actual on the ground building. What are some of the, I wouldn't say struggles, but what are some of the things that you ran into that stood out for you?
Educating people on the future of media when they had not even fully basked in what was existing, especially in developing markets, where they have rich stories. They're still used to telling stories through radio or through sitting down in community centers and just having these real life events where they talk about things, which is fine. But these stories are also global ready. They also need a distribution for everyone to just love and discover them as well. So when you go to villages in Kenya, or you go to villages in Ethiopia, etc., these people are talking about things that will blow your mind if you hear them. And sometimes I always tell people, everyone knows Black Panther, everyone knows Lion King, everyone knows The Color Purple, everyone knows so many good classics, and I always say majority of them have all been inspired by African African storytellers or fables, or like stories that someone's heard, The Woman King, and you're having these things coming out where Hollywood is telling the stories. I have no problem with Hollywood telling them, but the problem is who owns the story.
Yes.
Do you get what I'm saying? And that's not being given to the right people. And so that is where I felt that if someone is able to capture their story on the blockchain, it proves where it started from. It proves who owns the IP. It proves where it should be licensed from. It proves who should be given credit to. And that's what we're missing. And so you have stories being stolen and converted to what they want and want to do and want to make happen. It's fine, everyone make a buck on that, but let the people that tell the stories, let their voices be heard first, and let their voices be heard so we know that this is where it came from initially. Right. And that's one thing that was one of my biggest challenge, that how do I get every single voice, every single story to come on chain as much as possible, to make sure that we don't miss. Every voice should be represented, every story should be represented, that everyone gets the credits that they are due for what they've created before the world gets to license it in a way where it becomes commercialized as much as possible. The second bit is just really one of those things, like everyone say funding. Being that it's a consumer startup, everyone knows that we are in that position of Web3. When coin go up, everyone's like, Jamit needs to launch a coin, and I'm just like, this is not the time for Jamit to launch a coin. Jamit's not launching a coin when we are not ready for that type of thing. So us removing the speculativeness of Jamit has kind of put us in that position of where you still have to now raise traditionally. And we can just go and do a TG and raise millions of dollars and bring them in. And it's by design, because I feel like we should not just get out a coin just because we want to just extract from the community. So for me, it's funding ourselves and making sure that we're making enough to keep going forward and pushing through. We've raised from the best VCs out there, from Switzerland, CVVC, to Battery in California, to Microtraction here in Nigeria. A lot of beautiful helps through angels have come in, as checks from angels have come as well. And so we know we have the right people guiding us through this journey, and that funding has come in the traditional way, where it's not through TGs or us raising from the markets and everyone just buying our coin, and we are just taking from the people. So that was the challenge that we had to figure out and go the traditional route in raising.
Interesting. I think that shows like it plays into your experience, right? Because you're coming from like the Web2 space, so it's not such a difficult position to navigate, because a lot of people are so used to TGs and token launch. It's a different ballgame when you're doing traditional raising.
Yes. That was one of those things where I had the conversation where we had a conversation with this company in Dubai. They were ready to launch a Jamit coin. We had talked with some exchanges. They were ready to put everything in. We had even had the deal set. It was just for me to sign the agreement. I just couldn't get myself to it, and that was when Lisk actually started showing up. And Lisk was like, "Look, we'll give you even a grant to keep you going. You don't have to conform to things that you don't want for your own company." And we had to take a step back and look at it, and we were like, this is not the time yet for us to do that. And and really just got the best of resources from the people that really believed in us from day one, and gotten to get all these things done. And it's not easy feat to build a seven room studio, but doing this and building out our web apps, smart contracts. We have over 10 contracts. We have mobile apps in the works. so many things are coming together in the right way. That's the traditional way for me that not necessarily used to, but I'm comfortable pushing the company in than me pushing us into where we should not be. That does not really align with Jamit's goals at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
You spoke about Lisk, and well, this is Lisk Africa.
Yes.
So let's touch ground on that for a bit in terms of support, because I know for founders, support is very diverse, and the kind of support you need differs from time to time.
Yes.
And it's a very essential part of growing as a founder. In terms of support, how has that been like since Lisk Africa?
Lisk is one of, within our team, we always say Lisk is one of the angels in Jamit in terms of like when we talk about angels, investors, and Lisk came at the right time because we were working with the previous blockchain and we felt unseen in terms of like what we're trying to get done and how we're more disrupting something and bringing changes and better changes to an industry. But everyone's kind of focused more on, the meme coins, and everyone's focused more on things that were speculative for just high cash outs and extraction from the community. And we did not want to do that. And so because of that, we were kind of pushed back in the ecosystem. And one thing that I always tell even other people that are trying to found a company in the space is that you choose a blockchain for two reasons. Either you're choosing them for the resources you get in terms of cash capital, or you're choosing them for distribution. And that you have to choose either. But the most important that I always tell people is that you choose where you'll be celebrated or where you will be able to get the most support. Because if you don't have the most support, no matter how much cash you have, you blow it, you burn it. And no matter how much distribution you have, you won't be able to handle it if you don't have the right support. And so we were able to get that from Lisk. And Lisk was able to sit down with us. In fact, we didn't even think about Lisk at first. We happened to meet them and talk to them, and I was giving advice on how Lisk could really do well in Africa. And then before we knew it, there was another meeting, and I'm like, they really care about the founders that we're building from Africa to a global audience. And that really pulled me into that space with them. Like, let's talk, let's figure out how we could do this. And gradually, I just fell in love with the team. The support started growing in. On almost every other week, we talk, figure out what we can do to make things better, what is needed, what do we need to make due before a specific date, etc. That collaboration has helped. And then they now came with the resources as well. With, okay, you need support for this, take this, and we'll guide you, we'll work with you on this, we'll partner with you on this. And that partnership has been really good. That it's helped us grow fast and also kept us steady. We were not falling off the rails. We fail and then we're able to get back up quicker, and then we pivot and we move. You don't get that from others. And that's, to me, that's the reason why we obsess with Lisk, because of that kind of support system that we get from them. And working with other chains, there's no problem in that. It's just more of like, you want to be where you know that if something is on fire, everyone's going to show up and be like, let's fix this together. Then when everything's on fire, everyone forgets about you and then moves on to the next one. And so that's why I sincerely decided that Jamit was going to build this core infrastructure on Lisk.
Wow, you heard that here first.
Yes.
I love that. Let's back to Jamit. So say I am somebody who doesn't have like an idea in podcasting or content creation. What would be my journey in Jamit?
The journey right now will be to download the app. And then once you download the app, you see the plus button right in the center. And you click the plus button and it's going to give you three options. Hey, record your voice or record what we call the microcast. And if you record the microcast, it's just 5 minutes of you, just the same way you create voice notes and you send to people. There's days you might say, I feel like journaling, and you want to record what you felt for the rest of for that whole day and tell the world. You can record that and then post that. You can just say, I have an idea of a story and I want to turn this into a bigger story. So I'm going to start a series, 5-minute series. Every other day I'm going to post about something. And you're just doing this. Gradually you become a creator from that. You have the option to even just write text, and then you put in text of maybe 1,000 words. If you can, if you write stories of fiction, you write that, and you can use any of our AI voices to help you narrate them as well.
Right.
And if you're a podcaster, professional, you can also upload your podcast through our platform as well. And so we allow everyone who's from a novice to intermediate to a pro to be able to use the app without having to see or feel the complexities of creating content, especially storytelling content right now in audio form as of now.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that it's as easy as ABC for everyone to do that, and that's why we kept it as simple. So our onboarding process is very simple. If you want a physical feel and you want to become a pro, then that's when you come into the podcast network, or you join one of the studio campuses, and then you go in on a regular basis to meet with people and talk with people, and then we guide you from show development all the way to monetization of your podcast. And that way we see your growth from a novice to becoming a pro, but you have to spend the time to do that. Right. But at the same time, just to get comfortable with your voice and you telling your stories already, you can do that by just taking the app, clicking the create button, and then creating immediately.
I think that's easy for people that don't have any experience to start.
Yes.
So now the studio itself, let me tell people. You told me, so I guess it's time we talk about it. Yeah. I think there's an offer for podcasters. Can you walk me through that?
So due to Lisk being part of our supporters and bringing in enough resources, we were able to expand our studio space. So currently we've built out the 7 studio rooms. What we've done is that some of these rooms are now available to every single person, not even only on Lisk. Actually, the whole super chain will now be able to use this space to create content. So if you're a podcaster in any of the blockchains in the super chain ecosystem, you can use here. We are probably going to expand this even to other blockchains in the future. The reason why is we want to get creators who are willing to now host on Jamit and come on chain to now have a space to feel that they are understood, and everyone comes together to understand the future of creating stories immediately. So we do have a free 1-hour session, so everyone is entitled to it. You can book, go into jamit.app, go to the studio section, and then you just have a 1 hour's booking session. You can get that for free. If you do get into the plans where you're with Lisk and you pay a certain amount, I think it's $19 a month, you get 4 hours, which is ridiculously affordable for everyone, because we always tell people right now you spend almost close to $50 to $100 per hour to record in any studio. You only pay $19 and you get 4-hour sessions. So you can record an episode, the full-length episode, every week if you want to. We do have a space where you could come in as well. We call that Paradise, where people can come in and spend time anytime they want to. It's more like co-working spaces for creators. So you could come in, chill, sit down, get your laptop, do whatever you want, drink coffee. We have a popcorn machine. You make as much popcorn as you want, but we want this whole space to be available for everyone. So we do have the free plan, which is 1 hour for all ecosystem creators, and then we do have the second one, which is $19 for 4 hours, and then we have the $39, which is unlimited. So you could come in, and if you have 1 million sessions a month, God no, 9 million sessions a month, but my team might, they will lose their minds. But if you have more than 4 sessions, let me put it that way, you can come record, and you have unlimited pass to this space as well.
Okay, so as a podcaster using the Jamit studio, I show up no gear, there's gear, I reckon.
Yes. Yes, we have some of the best gear in the world in terms of standards in podcasting. We do have, for podcasting, even if you need to record music, for audio dramas, for poets, for anyone that needs to record their voice, we have the best digital tools and also hardware tools to be able to take their voice and give them the best quality there is in the world.
Okay, so as a very lazy creator, I just I just show up. Just come out with the finished product.
Yes, you walk in, you come in, you record, and once you're done recording, we do have our AI services that are able to help everything else. After that, to help you with your post-production, and once you're done your post-production, you're good to go.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, maybe I'll be showing up in Jamit a lot.
Please do.
A lot. Okay, so this has been very insightful, and thank you so much. But I have just one more question.
Sure.
For founders, I think it's a two-part question. For founders, as a founder yourself, especially for founders maybe on Lisk, what would be your advice or advices for them, and then also for storytellers and creators as well?
For founders, don't give up. I think majority of I would have let go when we had the podcast network and when the podcast network was just ridiculous with expenses and we were not doing too well, and I could have found the next shiny thing to be able to go build. But that's the power of pivot. Pivot as many times as you need to. Pivot means that you failed, but you know how to get back up, except you literally need to change the brand name of the company or something. Then you start all over. But if you know you're within the same thing and you know now what you failed at and what you're better at, don't give up. You keep going at it and be consistent with that. And so that's what I would say to founders, because I've seen a lot of founders 1 year in, because they don't hit the numbers that the YCs are expecting or the big incubator accelerators in the world are expecting. They feel like they are not up to par. But there's nothing wrong with having some growth that keeps you. So far you see your hockey stick developing, keep at it. And if you see it flat, figure out what needs to go up. And except it's dead, then obviously know when to stop. But my point is, don't give up. Keep pivoting until you find the right hit that takes you up. And then for storytellers, every single human being on this planet has a voice. Even if they can't speak, they have something to say. And with that voice, it means that every single person has a story to tell.
Right.
And so a lot of people have gotten to a point where they feel we're now getting into a world where there's a lot more censorship and there's a lot more cancel culture growing as crazily across the world. Not even before you would think it was just happening in regimes, militant rules, and now it's even in democratic societies.
Right.
And so we need to figure out how do we not get scared anymore, to be able to speak out our minds. And that's why I love the power of blockchain, because you could go ban a TV station, you could go ban a radio station and remove the content from there and remove the content from any of our digital platforms, but you can't remove it from the blockchain. And so I want people to know that they now have a place to be able to speak out and be able to speak about what they want to talk about, or tell the stories that they want to tell in any way, any form. We are very inclusive. There's always an audience for any type of content. We are not the ones to tell people what to say and not what to say. What we just want to guide everyone is to feel free to speak out.
Right. And
if you're able to feel free to speak out, then we're good to go. And we will know that the blockchain or the part of Jamit will be able to protect you with the tech that we've used to build Jamit. We are not going to be able to cancel your content. We're not going to be able to stop your content. You own your content 100%. You own your smart contracts. You own every single thing. So we won't be able to even do anything about that. And you can take your content wherever you want to. We don't have to stop you. So that is the power of everyone's voice. So everyone should use their voice to tell their story without being scared about what the world to say about that.
All right. Thank you so much, Ike.
Thank you.
This has been really insightful, and I'm glad to see the building is gorgeous. Honestly.
Thank you.
There's a lot. I will be here a lot.
We're going to bring you here a lot more.
Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next one.